У вас есть 20 секунд, чтобы ознакомиться с заданием.
Now we are ready to start.
Speaker A.
All my friends from private school are snobbish now because they moved from the state school I go to. I don't understand why everyone thinks private schools are better. I'm not saying I have anything against private schools, but it does make me a bit upset when I see all the people that used to go to state school acting snobbish because of a silly little thing like having more lessons in biology, physics and chemistry than I have in my school.
Speaker B.
I hated my state school that I went to when I was younger, but don't get me wrong, I have nothing against state schools in general. I know I was just unlucky. My brother and sister stayed at a state school right up until their final exams. They both got really good grades, which proves that private school education isn't better for everyone. As for me, I found that people were friendlier in my private school, and I felt a lot happier. I know this is not always the case, because my brother and sister enjoyed going to the state school.
Speaker C.
Well, I would like to say I go to a private school and I was shocked at how much some people take for granted. One of my classmates got a plasma screen TV for her birthday and a laptop for Christmas, and she just spoke about them as if they were ordinary presents, nothing special. It's not that there's anything wrong with it, just sometimes, if you have a lot of money, it is important to remember that you are lucky, because some families are so poor that they have no money to buy a TV set in the sales.
Speaker D.
A lot of people who go to my private school are not that rich at all. My parents just wanted the best education for me, and this school was the right choice. Smaller classes are much better. I found this from my own experience. Here we do separate sciences, and I think it allows people to understand which sciences they like and see which they are good at. You can also study physics, chemistry, and biology in much more detail, as well as languages, history, and so on.
Speaker E.
I go to private school, and we have to wear a uniform. And I know why we have to have it. If the people in my school didn't have to wear it, then they would come to school in too short skirts or torn trousers. And you always get the people who can come into school and look almost like Halloween, with makeup running down their faces and chains hanging off every place. Not the right things to wear to school, I think. School uniform disciplines pupils and makes them look nice and clean.
Speaker F.
I go to a busy city centre school. I think there are about 1,100 pupils and about 120 teachers. The corridors are really narrow in some of the buildings, and there are crowds of pupils running and pushing when the bell goes, and everyone is there. One of the corridors is so narrow that we have a one-way system. The school definitely needs broader corridors as well as larger classrooms.
You have 15 seconds to complete the task.
Задание A1, A7. Вы услышите разговор подруг. Определите, какие из приведенных утверждений A1, A7 соответствуют содержанию текста. 1. True. Какие не соответствуют. 2. False. И о чем в тексте не сказано, то есть на основании текста Нельзя дать ни положительного, ни отрицательного ответа. 3. Not stated. Обведите номер выбранного вами варианта ответа. Вы услышите запись дважды. У вас есть 20 секунд, чтобы ознакомиться с заданиями.
Now we are ready to start.
So, Lisa, I see your suitcase out. You're going on a trip.
I'm going to Taiwan on a business trip.
A business trip. How do you feel about taking business trips?
I love getting out of London for, 3 or 4 days and staying at a nice hotel, somewhere in Europe or America, and taking a flight somewhere.
So you like to travel?
I love travelling.
You don't mind staying in different hotels and travelling by plane all the time? Don't you get bored?
No, never. I mean, I don't always like the whole process of checking in at the airport, because it takes a lot of time. But somehow I've got used to queuing and stay calm. Then there's waiting for the plane. It's so long and tiring. I always feel bored. But as soon as I'm in the plane and the doors close, I love it. No one can contact me. I can't contact anyone else. There are free movies playing, and the food comes. It's wonderful.
So it seems you like living in a bubble. It's like a mini vacation.
Well, when I go on business trips, my working day is up to 14 hours. In terms of my workload, it's a lot busier than when I'm at home. But somehow it does feel like a mini vacation. I stay in nice hotels. I get to take taxis everywhere, which I love to do. I eat at great restaurants and meet with great people and do some important things. So yeah, I really do love the whole aspect of a business traveller's life.
So what do you do to try to avoid being bored when you're waiting to board the plane?
Well, the first thing I do is I never get to the airport too early. As I'm a frequent flyer, I check in and then I, unfortunately, go to the duty-free shop. I say unfortunately because it's unfortunate for my credit card. Not really unfortunate for me. I go to the duty-free shop. Normally, I buy some perfume or cosmetics. Sometimes I go to the business lounge, where there are free drinks and food. And if I do get to the airport a couple of hours earlier, I do some urgent work.
I see. Sounds like an exciting lifestyle.
It's fun. I wouldn't give it up for anything else.
You have 15 seconds to complete the task.
Задание A8, A14. Вы услышите интервью. В заданиях A8, A14 обведите цифру 1, 2 или 3, соответствующую выбранному вами варианту ответа. Вы услышите запись дважды. У вас есть 50 секунд, чтобы ознакомиться с заданиями.
Now we are ready to start.
Our guest today is Chris Nash, who is widely recognised as one of the most creative photographers in his field. He has held over 40 exhibitions of his dance photographs worldwide and has worked with world-renowned dance companies and choreographers. And my first question is, what inspired you to become a photographer?
I kind of came at it from an odd angle. I was studying fine art at college, and as part of the course, we spent a week in the darkroom. I found it a bit like magic, watching the pictures develop. At the time, I was making a lot of big pieces of sculpture, and because I didn't have anywhere to store them, I would have to take photographs of them and then destroy the sculptures. This was a bit heartbreaking, really, so I took real pride in the images and gradually began to develop a greater interest in photography.
Did you have any formal training?
Not really. I spent more and more time in the darkroom. The tutors were the artists making work that was photographic-based. The darkroom technician at the college was great. He was a professional photographer and introduced me to John, the photographer I assisted when I left college. I wanted to do things, and John would tell me what I would need, what equipment, what books to read. I kind of taught myself, but he was there to help with any questions I had. The best way of learning is doing.
You just said you worked as an assistant. Is this a good way into a career?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think it is the best way. When you see a photographer working on the job, you come to realise, get a clear idea of what photography is about. You have to deal with a lot of talented people, models, performers, makeup artists, etc. All of them have their particular habits and eccentricities. You need to be able to draw the best out of them and to be really patient. Ideally, when you are at college, you are taught all the basic techniques, but when you come out, there's a whole lot of other important stuff to learn.
What was your first camera? Or the first photo you took?
A really cheap plastic camera. I had that when I was 12, and then I bought a single lens camera when I got to college. Then I went back to a plastic camera. I saw this exhibition where a photographer had used a really cheap camera called a Diana. It had a cheap plastic lens on it, which made everything go fuzzy and dreamy. I wanted to get the same effect, so I went to a lot of markets to try and pick up a second-hand camera. I had two which I would carry around with me.
When did you become interested in dance?
It was while I was studying in London. At that time, the dance centre was attached to our college, so I met a lot of dance students and saw a bit of contemporary dance. I thought this would make a great subject for photography, so I encouraged one of the dance students to go into the studio and let me take some photographs. I was fascinated by the results and sent the pictures into a competition, and I won. I won £50 worth of photographic materials. That got the ball rolling. This was about 1979.
Do you go to dance performances of the people you photograph?
Yes, but not very often. The way I work is a bit back to front. When I take pictures, it's usually way in advance of the actual piece being created. Working with the dancers, I can only imagine what the future performance will be like, and it is interesting to find out if the work I have done corresponds to the real play. So, sometimes I will go and see the premiere. It is important for me to see if the photographs make any sense, and if the piece is how it was originally described to me.
What do you enjoy most about your career?
With the exhibitions I've done, I've got to do lots of travelling. I've had trips abroad on shoots, which can be a great thing. Also, I have really enjoyed working with dancers and working with creative people. Dancers always have a lot of energy and are always active. When you ask them to do things, all those little directions, they have absolutely no objections. When you work with other people who don't have that physical training, it can be difficult to work in the same way. I love going to see dance performances, but it's different when you work with dancers. It's right there with you, and it's really exciting. That's what I love. You have 15 seconds to complete the task.